Welcome to the podcast, From One Mother of an Addict to Another. This is a space of sharing heartfelt personal experiences, insightful thoughts, and powerful suggestions, which can hopefully assist and offer strength navigating your journey alongside a loved one facing addiction and mental illness. Welcome to the podcast, From One Mother of an Addict to Another. This is a space of sharing heartfelt personal experiences, insightful thoughts, and powerful suggestions, which can hopefully assist and offer strength navigating your journey alongside a loved one facing addiction and mental illness.
Hi, welcome to the podcast episode, Life Skills. You know, when people mention life skills, the first thing that I recall when I really started thinking about the importance of life skills, where does someone even pick that up if not over their entire life? Isn't that why it's called life skills? These are things that you learn along the way, mistakes, the way to communicate with people, the way not to communicate with people, the way to present yourself in public, the way to communicate, the way to speak with people, the way to learn how to speak with different people in different stages of their lives, or the way they can handle the way you speak with them, adjusting your tone. These are things you learn naturally, that should come naturally. But to addicts, they don't come naturally. You know, sitting in front of someone and asking them, being asked questions in order to get a job, that's like 10 times more difficult than the average person just walking in and being interviewed. Why? Because the insecurity of not experiencing this, the insecurity of not having to answer to anyone. Think about it. I never looked at things this way, ever. The first time I encountered this was when my son got out of rehab for the first time. It was 30 days. I didn't know better. He came out and they told me, he goes right into like a halfway house. So he went into a halfway house. And he was in IOP, which is intensive outpatient program. So, but they say, the only way he could do that is if he has a job. Oh, he has a job. Okay, well, what kind of job is he going to have? Because he has never had a job, and he's basically 18 years old. He's never stuck to anything more than 5 minutes or lied about it. So I'm not quite sure how he's going to get a job. It doesn't matter what he does. He could wash cars. Well, you know, when you look back, and a lot of parents say, oh, yeah, who cares? That would be good for them. Let them wash cars. Let them go to Starbucks. Let them go anywhere to just get a job. Yeah, I don't disagree. But there are a lot of factors in there. And when someone comes out of rehab for the first time after 30 days, they're not ready to go back into the so-called world yet. You haven't even addressed the tip of the iceberg of the issues or underlying issues or what's really going on with your kid, and they don't even know what's going on with them, because at this point they've only been sober 30 days. That might not even last a week, and putting stress on how they're going to get a job or where they're going to have to be at a certain time every day when they're first not even clear-headed yet. It takes, I remember my son, it took at least 6 months before I saw him start getting a little more clear-headed and seeing things a little differently at that particular time. But after the first rehab, I remember him saying, you know how horrible I feel? What, I have to go get a job at Starbucks, it's as if it was belittled to him. He felt like it was beneath him. And how's he going to get there? Lots of excuses, of course. But on the other hand, the only way to pick up life skills is to be in certain types of situations, right? Learning, helping people out at the cash register, talking to people every day, being in an environment where you have to communicate face to face. So yeah, those kind of jobs are great, but timing is everything. And going back to that, they do learn life skills, so to speak, when they have to cope with other people in intensive outpatient program or even in rehab itself. They have a roommate typically, and then they're sitting in group therapy all day, most of the day, and talking to different people, talking to their therapist. So, yeah, they have that kind of communication, but is someone explaining to them like what they need to look like every day, present themselves in a manner in which they want to be perceived? Um, they have to feel good about how they look, walk out the door feeling better about yourself. And that takes learning. That takes pointing out. Who's going to point those things out? They come back home and live with you after 30 days. What does that do? They're just back to what? What comes next? I know it's a problem. What does come next? That's why they should stay in rehab for at least 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. If you could get them 120 days, stay as long as they can. They need it. Even if it's the first time and they didn't make this decision to go, if they didn't make this decision to go and it's their first time, you can expect within like 24 hours to 48 hours, they are back doing something to sabotage themselves. They don't know better. They're not capable of making decisions at that point still, and they haven't addressed their real issues. Life skills is a course that should be taught in every school across the country for high school, middle school, share the importance of it, but they often don't. I don't know if you could teach someone the importance of brushing your teeth every day. To most people, it comes naturally after their parents, when they're younger, make sure they brush their teeth every day. And then it gets to the point where, right, they automatically do it. It's just part of their nightly routine or morning routine. But some kids just don't pick that up. They're incapable of changing their clothes every day, being incapable of taking care of their things, careless with their things. They're just not able to do it. It's almost like too draining, too much on them. And it's not important. It almost makes them feel worse to think about it because they're incapable of doing it. That's why they say, the importance of being on a schedule. That's a life skill, right? Importance of them getting up every morning at 8 o'clock. But you have to have a purpose. Otherwise, why are you getting up at 8 o'clock? And if they're depressed, how are they going to get up at 8 o'clock? And if they can't fall asleep at night and they're up all night, then they're in mania. How are they going to fall asleep? They're going to start falling asleep in the morning, during the day, and then they'll be up at night. So routine is very important. But it's easy for us to say. And parents need to step aside and not make these decisions or help them with these life skills that it's more embarrassing to them as they get older, the fact that they have to learn these over again and their parents are teaching it to them at a later stage in their life. So that's not who should be expressing when they should be getting up, when they should be going to bed, because that's just like, it's more like demanding. It's more like, you listen to me and I'm going to tell you what to do and I'm in charge. That's not what they need to know. What they need to know is that you are there to support them, by their side, but not guide them in what they need to do. They should take a class. You should look for maybe community college, continuing education classes. Sometimes they have these life skill classes. Getting a coach for them. Getting a coach to help them get into a daily routine. What does that look like? What does a daily routine look like for them? What does it look like for you? I know for me it means getting up, praying, going to work out, and then starting my day. That is, to me, a great way, and it's a great routine. And then the rest of the day is, basically getting dinner ready, being there for your family, putting everything else aside, knowing how to prioritize, which is challenging to anyone. So it's going to be extremely challenging to someone that is just coming out of rehab. Now, that's the first time you come out of rehab. What about the second or third or fourth or fifth? It's starting over and over and over again. Because the bottom line is that those life skills probably were never really learned, were never really tapped into, were never attached to, and they definitely were not committed to really staying sober. Now, staying sober, I always say, some people they're addicts or they're alcoholics or they're gamblers or they could be everything. They go from one addiction to another, like my son. So, some people can look at it like, oh, they do that because they're just trying to fill themselves. They don't want to look at themselves. They don't want to know anything about themselves because they hate themselves. They feel so low about themselves that they'll do anything to distract themselves from thinking about themselves. That is really important to address. That is really important to see. You might be a confident parent. You might be confident as a employee or a business owner, and that even makes them feel worse because they see what you're at and they know where they're at. I mean, they can see the difference. So basically what this comes down to is that how can we get help for our kids? When do we get help for them? Even before they go to rehab, it might help to start getting a coach. They call them sober coaches, but it could be anyone outside your family. Coaching to me isn't, when I used to go to therapists, right? And I still do once a week, but when you go to therapy, you're trying to learn something to come out of it somehow stronger, right? So it's part of a life skill in a way, learning how to cope with your problems, learning how to cope with sadness, learning how to cope with failures, of emotions, and your daily routine. How to not feel so stressed out. How to not take the world on your shoulders. Imagine how they feel. They feel the responsibility, our kids, of what we've put on them. The stress and what we've wanted them to be and how we wanted them to turn out to be. Not everyone feels that way. But then, I actually said to my son, I remember this, it's the first time he came out of, no, it was the second time he came out of rehab. And I looked at him, I said, listen, I wanted you to go to an Ivy League school. I wanted you to go into science. I wanted you to be a chemist. I wanted you to make sure that you were in all AP classes. I'm sorry. You're not disappointing me because you didn't go to an Ivy League college. I can't want something for you, and that's wrong. I meet more and more parents that do that. Now, the life skills that I just taught my son is that, wow, people can say things and make mistakes. People can change. You don't have to hold something against someone. And there's forgiveness, right? There's tons of forgiveness that's included in rehab and sober living and getting back into your family's lives and your friends' lives and them accepting you and accepting what you did and all the things you didn't mean to do but did them because you weren't in your right mind. And so life skills is something that's developed over time. And the only way to get that done is by having your child, your adolescent kid, be advised. And you can't advise them. You need to get up. I don't want to see you sleeping. It's 12 o'clock. Why aren't you up? Okay, that does nothing. We all know that does nothing. And it's the most annoying thing to know that you're halfway through your day and they haven't even woken up. And so, yeah, that is a problem. And nobody wants to live that way. And plenty of people are living that way, seeing their kids not getting up, hiding in their rooms, have nowhere to go, low self-esteem, and are just locked into their lives. And they're fooling themselves if they think they're not doing drugs or not depressed or not thinking about how low self-esteem that they have and how they wish they could get out of their so-called failure to launch. But those are other areas of life skills that will come out later on when your kid is a little more secure with their ability to stop themselves from drinking or smoking or feeling like they have to be a part of something, and that they can't stand on their feet on their own and be confident enough that if someone doesn't understand that I don't want to drink, then that person's not for me. And if that person wants to sleep all day and party at night and he wants to be my friend, but my life isn't like that, then that's not where you should be. That takes a very mature person to be able to get to that point. So sometimes we also feel like, why is our kid caving in? He went back to school again, right? My kid goes back to school. He's doing fabulous. And he's feeling down about himself. He feels like he's older compared to the other kids. He's not secure enough in himself to see that it's okay if you don't have friends. It's okay. Just go to school, do what you have to do, and get out of there. You're there for a reason. But that's never enough. For someone that has low self-esteem and needs everyone around them to make them feel better, that's never going to work. They're always going to have to play up to the next person. Oh, okay, sure, yeah, I'll come to that party. I'll be able to control myself, they're saying to themselves, when of course they're not. I could have a little pot. It's not the end of the world. Oh, but they asked me to go to a poker game, and, I know I shouldn't have done it, but I just did it once, and then it led into another and another and another, and then I ended up spending all my rent money. Yeah, no, that's not good either. There were no life skills learned between the time they got sober, went back to school, and then needed to go back into rehab again. Why? Because it takes a long time to pick up life skills. Now, if it's just about depression, which is a huge topic, or mental illness, right? Psychosis or schizophrenia, having someone like a coach around to help them is amazing. It's a lifesaver if you could afford it. But doing something like that for your kid, if you can, wow. And even having them help pay for it. Let's say they do get a job, or they could be on disability. That's another thing. But let's say they do get a job. Make them give you part of the money. Pay 50% of what it costs to have someone help him or her and be there by their side. 3 days a week, a couple of hours a day. It could be a big difference for someone to know that someone's there for them. It's almost like, I guess, hiring a friend in a way, right? Because they don't have to answer to anybody else. And a friend, they don't really owe anything to a friend. And they could tell them things. And usually they're not going to be judging. It's all about judgment. That's another thing. They feel like everyone's judging them all the time. That's one of the biggest things when it comes to drug addicts and alcoholics. And you're judging me. I don't want to be judged. Why are you judging me? Like the anger part comes out, and that's when you don't get into fights with them. That's no time to try to figure out if their life skills and how you're going to get them back on track, and how you're going to get them up to go get a job and get on track. It's just not going to happen. A lot of people think they could do it, and their kids are living in their houses, and you can't do it. You can't do it for your husband. You can't do it for your parents. You can't do it for your kids. You could only do it for yourself. It's just not going to happen otherwise. And if somebody doesn't see it, that they can't organize their day, they don't know how to act with other people, they're not able to communicate in the way that others communicate in a social setting, then they're going to be insecure. The only way to get more secure is to build up those life skills. When your shirt's dirty, you change your shirt. You don't wear the same pants every day and not wash them for a month at a time or 2 months. You don't keep wearing clothes when they have holes in them. You want to wear them around the house and, just for bedtime or lounging. That's one thing. But we all know that's really not how they should be presenting themselves out in public. But depression, fatigue, can be so hard on someone that it could be even difficult to change their clothes. Now, if they're willing to wear the same outfit every day and they have 5 of the same shirts and 5 of the same pants, great. They wash them once a week, and that's a life skill right there. But if they're not willing to pick that up and they're not willing to take care of themselves, then they have mental illness, okay? And you need to understand that now. The earlier, the better. Even though you've taught them to clean their rooms when they were younger, even though you've given them jobs around the house, which actually is awesome. That is a great way to help your kids get on the path of having very strong life skills. But most parents don't, and especially helicopter parents, they really didn't do that in that stage. But what you can do now, if you have someone living in your home that needs the help with life skills, or is going to be coming out of rehab, or is in a halfway house, and they're in IOP, intensive outpatient program, 3 days a week. They're in group therapy, and they need life skills because they're not ready to go work in an environment. They're not ready to put themselves out there. They don't feel confident with it. Well, then, look in your neighborhood. Look to see if there are classes that are offered for life skills. Go look at for coaches. Go online. Look for sober coaches. Look for coaches that handle addiction. I actually work with parents that are going through the crisis at the beginning stages. That's more of my forte. I'm not really that person that's going to help the addict or the recovering addict with improving their life skills. That's a certain technique. I believe that's someone who it's a different personality, and that's someone that really basically focuses on doing that, and that's their skill. So it's very important to get on that path, or sometimes you could find a family friend that's willing to do it. Someone that's really a friend of yours, but they don't really know your kid very well. You haven't hung out as families. You've just hung out one-on-one as friends. You've met each other at pickleball or some book club. Maybe someone would help you out and call your kid. A lot of times there could be a family friend that was an addict at one time in their lives, or an alcoholic, that are willing to, help out. Go talk to your kid every couple of weeks. Check in on them. They react the best to that. That is awesome. I had a friend's husband, and he was an alcoholic. He actually blacked out a lot. He hid it really well from his family. He never smelled. His breath never smelled. His wife never knew. She knew something was up with him, but never that. He was extremely depressed. And he ended up going for help. And he was able to stay sober all these years. It's been now probably 10 years that he's stayed sober. And one of the things that he had to go back and learn is, life skills. Hadn't had a job for a long time. How's he going to get back out there? What is he going to do? It didn't matter if you had to go drive an Uber. It really doesn't at the end of the day, because it's putting yourself out there and you're starting from somewhere. And he did. And he started from somewhere, and he built himself up again. And he built his confidence up, right? And that's how you do it. But during the beginning of those stages, when he was going to AA meetings a lot, which is what really helped him, personally it helped him, he was able to, by reaching out to others that needed help, helped him. So that is a very common thing for addicts and alcoholics, and even someone with schizophrenia or psychosis can help other people. Once they're on meds, or they've been taken care of on their own, or family members, and they're on the track, a good track of staying sober, which is a lifetime, and everybody knows it. And you don't know it until you're like probably I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years in, and you keep looking at yourself like, okay, well, no, this is going to end. We just have to get this done. And, once he's recovered and once he's, and I hear it. But like I said to someone that told me that, yeah, he went to rehab. Oh, yeah, thank God he's so good. Yeah, he smokes pot a little bit. He's living at home, though. He is working. He gets up a little later than we would like. He's really not helpful around the house. I'm trying to implement that. Okay, so they're working on that. Once I hear that he started smoking pot, that's a real downer. Because that typically starts you going, oh, I could smoke a little pot. I'll have a drink. No problem. Oh, yeah, sure. I'll have one of those street drugs. Yeah, I'll have one. What's the big deal? I mean, I have some pot once in a while. I'm still fine. I'm able to go to work. I'm able to function. I'm nothing like I was before. I'm not yelling. I'm not stealing from my parents. Okay, maybe you're not right now. But you and I both know as parents that these things become cyclical. And if they start one thing, it will lead to other things eventually. And one of the things that help is learning the life skills, because it puts them on a better path, a path of having a companion, a path of building a home for themselves. What does that look like to them? And that should be asked. Not what your life looks like. It's too big and broad when people ask, well, what's your life looking at? Well, how the hell do I know? I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. I mean, even normal, everyday people, whatever normal is, because I don't believe there's such a thing as normal, but it's more like the norm. But I think that what we should remind ourselves as parents with this episode that I kind of wanted to stress and kind of share with you is life skills is exactly that, lifetime. And it never ends. Somebody said to me the other day, my husband comes out and often says to me, I'm exactly who I was. I am now who I was then. So what makes you so miserable with me now compared to what it was like then? And that's a really good way to look at it, huh? Right? Because it's life. And things do change. We change. Our personalities change. They do a bit. Sometimes it gets better. Sometimes it gets worse. Sometimes we change when the other person doesn't. And we need something different. It's the same for a recovering addict. It's the same for a lifetime with everyone. So we have to remember to accept the people that are in front of us, that are our family members. We don't get to choose our family members. They are who they are. And if we want them in our lives, we accept them for who they are. As long as it's safe, we accept them for who they are. Now, we can't perfect this life skills set situation on anyone. But we can make it easier. And easier would be to get some kind of assistance for them. And at the same time, making it more rules in the home. Like, you're responsible to throw the trash out, and on Mondays and Wednesdays, they come for recycling. The bins need to be out, and the next morning you need to put it back, and everything that has to do with collecting the garbage in the house is your responsibility. Okay, that's a really good start. But if you're going to say to your kid nothing and let them just live at your house, not make any money, not do anything, come and go as they please, basically not talk much, they're depressed, that needs to end. They need to get to that next step, which they're not getting to. And that's someone coming in, helping them get to that next step with life skills. And that's where they'll become much more confident.
Thanks for tuning in. I trust this episode brought you insight and strength, offering valuable coping strategies. Stay connected with weekly content, plus follow if you enjoyed, and be sure to journal for your own self-care.